It's now time for Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. It began as a podcast, went live on the net, and transformed into a full-blown empire. It's the only daily boxing talk show on the planet, hosted by the only guy with the balls to do it. Many have stepped into the ring. Many have tried to take the belt. And one by one, they've fallen. Another victim of the undisputed heavyweight champion of boxing talk radio. Talkin' Boxing with Billy C is on now.
My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C Show. Good morning, good day, good evening. Whenever you're listening, whenever you're watching, I hope you're doing all right today. Today's show is being brought to us in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant, located on beautiful St. Simons Island in Georgia. Check out the website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com, or give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. Find out why I go all the way to St. Simons for an authentic Italian meal. And today's show is also being brought to us in part by my book. You guessed it. My book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. And you can get a copy of this book right now while you're watching or listening to this show. All you got to do is go to Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. Find out why I'm so adamant about getting the story of Tom Molyneux told. This is a guy that should be in our history books. Listen, he is in the history books, but he's shoveled under the carpet. He should be top in the history. This is Tom Molyneux is an important part of boxing history, American history, and Black American history. So check it out. Find out why. I fell in love with this guy when I read the account of his championship fight, and then, I mean, talk about a story. Just get yourself a copy. If you're looking to get a signed copy, just visit BillyCBoxing.com and click on the book. If you're looking to get multiple copies, just go to, just drop me an email, Billy@TalkinBoxing, TalkinBoxing.com. And, as I mentioned before, Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com both have plenty of copies available. Coming up a little bit later, I got some emails to read. We got some somewhat big fights that were announced. Some other fighters that won't say enough is enough. I got an assignment for y'all. Yeah. What I'm gonna do is I was making some statements about a certain trainer that was showcased this weekend, and was telling you that this guy is cursed. Well, let's see if I'm right, because he'll be in the corner again this weekend. So we'll talk about that. A couple of big heavyweight fights in Europe taking place that I wanted to talk about. Again, the European fighters willing to step in the ring early on in their careers to dictate and control where they go next, something we don't see too often here in the States. But first, I want to talk about some news that was released, and we will get more of it released towards this end here in the States, most likely today after our show airs. But it was announced or at least discussed in Europe yesterday, specifically England, that Eddie Hearn, who, as you know, is one of the top promoters in the world, clearly in England, but in the world, and he has already promoted some shows here in the States, but he's talking about a big show in the summer And the talk is that he wants, in providing Anthony Joshua gets by his next fight, which is Joseph Parker, not this weekend but next weekend, and Dillian White, who fights this weekend against Lucas Brown, providing those two guys win, which it's assumed that they will, come and fight here in the States. But here's the problem. According to Eddie Hearn, if Miller wins his fight, he's got a fight coming up, then he wants to put Anthony Joshua against Miller and Dillian White against Deontay Wilder as a co-main event. And then should AJ and Wilder win, then have the showdown that we all want in the late fall. My point right now, and we've been talking about this really last week, and we actually were talking about it again yesterday. There is no other fight for Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder except to fight each other. Now, this is assuming that Anthony Joshua gets by Joseph. Deontay Wilder already did his part. He already did his part by beating Luis Ortiz. I don't want to see Deontay Wilder fight Dillian White. Yeah, it's a tough fight for Deontay Wilder. Sure it is. 2 fights, fight Dillian White. I don't know. But the bottom line is Deontay Wilder does not need to fight Dillian White now. Maybe you could have made that argument that it was a good fight a couple months ago, but not now. Joining me right now from St. Simons to get his thoughts is Sal Rocky Senecola. Sal, what's your thoughts?
Deontay Wilder, know my thoughts, Billy.
But Deontay Wilder as a co-main event, please.
I'm sorry?
I said what Eddie Hearn is suggesting is Deontay Wilder as the co-main event.
No, it's pathetic. I mean, you said it in a nutshell. I mean, Deontay Wilder did what he had to do on his part to create the interest and stimulate more fans to say, hey, let's get these two heavyweight champs in the ring together. So he did his part. And now it's up to Anthony Joshua to do his part. And there's no other fight in the heavyweight division that I really want to see other than Anthony Joshua face Deontay Wilder for the heavyweight championship unification fight of the world. That's it. That's the one I want to see. And I'm sure there's millions of other fans that would share that same opinion. Don't you think?
I listen, you could have
made marinated.
You could have made this argument prior to the Luis Ortiz fight, and you could have said, okay, AJ's going to come to the States and blah blah blah. If Deontay Wilder had fought some sacrificial lamb in his last fight, you could make the argument, but he didn't. He fought Luis Ortiz, and not only did he fight Luis Ortiz, but it was an exciting fight. And Deontay Wilder answered a lot of questions in that fight. He answered the main question. He's got a decent chin, at least against Luis Ortiz. And he also answered a heart question. He's got heart. And he never let up. He never lost faith in his corner. He never lost faith in himself. And he showed that he was in good condition, because if a fighter wasn't in good condition, he wouldn't have survived that 7th round against Luis Ortiz. So with all that said, he's already gotten past his Joseph Parker, if you will. There's no reason. I totally understand dragging it out and building it up and all of these things. But this fight is beyond that, Sal. And I think Deontay Wilder deserves to fight Anthony Joshua next. And Anthony Joshua at this point, I think that he loses some credibility if he picks someone else, especially someone like Jarrell Baby Miller, who's nothing. This is like when everybody criticized Deontay Wilder for fighting Artur Spitska or fighting Johan Duhaupas. I mean, these are the kinds of fights. I mean, that's Jarrell Miller. Miller's a built up. He's never fought anyone. He's going to have a rough fight against Duhaupas himself. No, This fight has to be made now, Sal. I mean, it can't wait anymore. It's ridiculous to suggest that Deontay Wilder fight is a co-main against Dillian White and AJ fight Jarrell Miller, and then should they both win, move on to fight each other. I think that's crazy.
Let me ask you, who came out with that? Who's the one that wants that?
Well, Eddie Hearn.
Eddie Hearn. Okay.
Well, he's a promoter.
What? That says a lot about Eddie Hearn, and it says a lot about the Anthony Joshua camp. And I'm sorry, because you know what? This fight doesn't need any more anticipation. This fight doesn't need any more marination. This fight just needs to be solidified and signed, sealed, and let's deliver it. That's it. And you know what? This is the time for truth or dare. You know, Anthony Joshua supposedly called Deontay Wilder out as not to wanting to fight him. And Anthony Joshua also heard from Deontay Wilder's side that Deontay Wilder has been calling out Anthony Joshua. So I think the first camp that doesn't want to fight this fight immediately, they're the chicken. They're the one that's got to be held to the highest, and they're the ones that are going to be a little looked upon as trying to duck the other guy. I'm telling you, Bill, that's the way it should be. Well,
my point is, you can spin it any way. Eddie Hearn can make it like he's trying to build more of a demand for it. He's trying to lay a groundwork, marination, if you will.
Forget about it.
Ripping a page out of Bob Arum or Golden Boy's book. But I've said this a million times. It's not like that's the only fight in the heavyweight division ever, and they got to wait. You know, look what happened to Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. They waited, and people were clamoring for it and drooling for it. And we had an opportunity when both fighters were somewhat at their peak, and Floyd avoided Manny Pacquiao like the plague. And then 4 years later, after Manny Pacquiao is a shell of himself, and no disrespect to Floyd, because he wasn't the same fighter either. I mean, it's not like he was in a time capsule and was totally taken care of and preserved. And the end result is we still paid premium dollar and got treated to a terrible fight, a fight that turned many boxing fans away. I don't want the same thing to happen in the heavyweight division, the glory division, the division that, puts boxing on the map. No, Deontay Wilder has earned his shot against AJ next. I'm sorry. And if Anthony Joshua does not fight Deontay Wilder next, I'm telling you, Sal, he's going to lose some credibility. At least he's definitely going to lose it with me.
In my book, yeah. No, you hit it on the head. I'm sorry. You just got me riled up so bad because you know what? You are 100% correct, Bill. He will lose some credibility. He will lose a lot of fans. And I'll tell you what. What do they call that? Chicken?
Yeah. Well, listen, I hate to, and I've used it myself, but I hate to say fighters are chicken because the makeup of a professional fighter, these guys aren't chicken. They're tough guys. They go through a lot. You know more than anybody. It becomes a business decision. And, fighters get, especially in the last 25, 30 years, they get to hide behind their promoter and say, well, I don't make the decisions. Years ago, the fighter made the decision. Now they hide behind it. Well, I fight whoever they put in front of me. That's the favorite line. I fight whoever they put in front of me. So you've said it a million times. At the end of the day, it's up to the fighter. If Anthony Joshua, I know myself, I've put him at the top of the heavyweight division. I've put him at the top. I've put my neck on a chopping block, and I've said, this is the guy. He's the best heavyweight. Nobody will beat him.
The future of boxing.
And really, you're right. He's the future of how this sport goes. Why make us wait? It doesn't make any sense. You could do a 2-fight deal with Deontay Wilder as long as he doesn't get blown out in one round. Either fighter, that is, doesn't get blown out in one round. There's going to be a demand for a rematch. It makes no sense to say, okay, Deontay, we'll give you AJ, but you have to fight Dillian White first. That's not fair to Deontay Wilder. And Dillian White, it's not like he's a killer, but he's not an easy fight too. It doesn't make sense to fight that fight. Not now. If Deontay had never fought Luis Ortiz, I might be having a different opinion. But he did fight Luis Ortiz, and he did perform well. No, Sal, there's no reason that that AJ does not fight Deontay Wilder next, especially if they expect Deontay to fight on the undercard. That is a slap in the face for you. Deontay Wilder's a main event fighter. Let's be real.
Let's be real, 100%. Like I said earlier, his value, his stock went tremendously up, and I'll tell you what, there's no reason why he can't get at least a 60-40, maybe a 55-45 split with Anthony Joshua. So I'll tell you what, that's the only fight that needs to be made in the heavyweight division after and if Anthony Joshua is able to get past Parker this weekend.
Well, he's fighting next weekend, but
next weekend.
This weekend we got the Dillian White against Lucas Brown, which let me tell you something. That's not an easy fight for Dillian White. I mean, there's a good chance that he struggles in that fight against Lucas Brown. Lucas Brown has gotten really good sparring. He's just as big as Dillian White. You know, there's some inside stuff. I mean, AJ didn't feel he performed that well against Dillian White, so he's open for a rematch. AJ has that fight. AJ has a potential fight with Tyson Fury. You know, so he does have other opportunities for him that don't include someone named Deontay Wilder. But my outrage here, and it is outrage, Sal, is that Eddie Hearn, who I respect and who I think is controlling boxing right now, I think it's pretty it's terrible that he would suggest, and this is giving Deontay Wilder no credit, to suggest that Deontay Wilder, who holds the last piece of the belt situation, this is all providing Anthony Joshua gets past Joseph Parker, to fight another fight before they fight each other. It's ridiculous. I get it. They all want to make more money. You know, AJ will make another, $10-15 million to fight Jarrell Miller, who he'll take care of in no time. But how about Miller and White and Deontay and AJ, and then the two winners fight each other and the two losers fight each other. You got four fights right there with those guys, Sal.
Well, you do, and I mean, you even have to consider Ortiz to be in that mix. You know, there's no reason why Ortiz and Parker shouldn't face each other, assuming that Parker was the loser of the fight against Anthony Joshua. I'm just saying, as you suggested many times, when one fight happens, there are many ones that spring up from that event. So win, lose, or draw, the heavyweight division looks like it's alive and well right now. And that's the division that all eyes are on, no matter what. If you're a fight fan, you know what? You could love the middleweights, you could love the lightweights, you could like the light heavyweights, you could like anything you wanted to like. But the heavyweight division has always been the glamorous division that catches the world's eye and attention.
Especially when you have two decent fighters that reside in it. Right now, we have AJ, and you got to give Deontay props. I had said that I did not think that this fight was going to take place 2018. I thought I might have been wrong. Listening to some of the rhetoric coming out of both camps after Wilder's win over Luis Ortiz, and now Eddie Hearn is mapping this out. It sounds ridiculous. And if I'm Deontay Wilder, all this criticism I gave to Deontay for pounding his chest and doing all of this, now's the time to pound your chest and say, hey, guess what? I'm not fighting Dillian White. There's only one fight for me. And like I said, if he changed his approach and just made it like it's a matter of fact, no, there's only one. I don't care about the WBC. I don't care about nothing. I want to fight AJ and approach it like I was saying the other day. How could you not support that as a fan? I mean, I'm telling you right now, Sal, if Anthony Joshua beats Joseph Parker and he does not fight Deontay next, and he tries to get Eddie Hearn tries to get AJ to fight Jarrell Miller, who's shouldn't even be in the same discussion, and try to coax Deontay into fighting Dillian White, I'm going to support Wilder on that 100%.
I like that, Bill. I like that because you know what? I'm with you, Bill. This is it. These two great heavyweights right now. After we see the fight with Anthony Joshua and Parker, next week. I'm sorry, and if Anthony Joshua does come out as the winner, the only fight we're going to promote and we're going to see will be in the heavyweight division would be a Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua unification without the frustration heavyweight championship of the world. And I'll tell you, there's no reason that either one of those fighters need to face another opponent other than each other. And Deontay Wilder, as you suggested, should definitely say, hey, I'm ready. I know I want to fight. I'm the best. And he says he's the best. We want to give the fans what they want, the two best fighting. He goes on that platform like you were saying. You know what? The fans can drive the sport to a degree. And there'll be an outcry for both sides to prove who their favorite is that can win in a fight between the two.
Well, I mean, somebody's saying, they're saying, AJ's the A side. Well, so what? So what? What does that have to? What does that have to do with anything? So what? He's the A side.
Doesn't matter.
I agree. He's the A side. So
he's
what?
The A side.
What does that mean? He gets to fight a slug. Make no mistake, Jarrell Miller's a slug. Hold that thought. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back in 2.
Billy C will be right back.
Broken air conditioning, $4,400. Failing refrigerator, $2,500. Don't let outrageous repair and replacement bills like these bust your budget. Get the First American Home Warranty Plan. And when a covered appliance or system breaks, we'll repair it or replace it for you.
We had a high-end dishwasher go kaput. They put it in a brand new dishwasher.
We have plans that cover air conditioning, most appliances, plus heating, plumbing, electrical systems, and much more. Plans start as low as $25 a month. Why let a major appliance or system breakdown bust your budget or go through the hassle of finding trustworthy service people? Last year alone, we saved our customers over $120 million. Don't wait until something breaks and you're stuck with a huge bill.
You save a lot of money. It's absolutely worth it.
If you don't have First American Warranty, get it.
Call 1-800-946-6234 for your free no-obligation quote.
Need relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt, the innovative technology to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
You know, similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace? Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyC.
BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C Show. Glad you could be with us. You know, I'm appalled at some of the comments that we're seeing right now in all the different chat rooms. I mean, we got some people saying, well, Wilder's going to be ringside for the Joseph Parker fight. He's going to come in the ring. And so, yeah, we'll see some WWE moves there. Other people are saying, well, he's the A side, so he gets to pick when he fights. Come on. That sounds like the whole Mayweather thing. Give me a break. You mean the A side, Sal? Like Canelo? Canelo's the A side. Made Triple G wait and wait. Then all of a sudden Canelo's cheats, gets caught, and everybody's trying to forget about it. Everybody's saying to me, hey, you know what? There's too much money to lose, Bill, so maybe you better stop with the Canelo cheating thing. I'm like, what are you talking about? What do you mean stop? Why should this guy, everybody is so full of crap, Sal. They talk about how they care about the fighters and the fighters' safety and this and that. Oh, they don't want you to knock a guy out anymore. They waive off fights and all of this. But they want to let Canelo fight even though he cheats because they don't want to lose the money. It's like what I had said to the ABC commission once about my idea about forcing fighters to have a head scan when they turn pro, so doctors could have an assumed good scan to compare a scan to. And he says, "Oh, Bill, that's a great idea, but what about the cost? It would cost too much. So don't tell me that you want safety for the fighters, but maybe not so much if it costs any money." How ridiculous is that, Sal?
Well, Bill, I'd say the benchmark started to become a lower mark 20 years ago, and it's continuing its slippery slope downward. And because we've often, if you have your hands extended down to lift something or somebody up, it's one thing to another level. That's the greatness. That's what we try to achieve in a capitalistic society. But when you let the hands of those you're trying to lift pull you down, then there's something wrong with that momentum in that picture. And that's what's happened. The benchmark has been lowered across the board in so many ways. And, I don't think it's ever going to be able to reestablish itself at another level. And as you said, there have been trade-offs. There have been concessions made, and it's always to accommodate the masses instead of sticking to what's in the best interest of the few.
No, but
I know. I'm not trying to do a political turnaround here. I know what you're saying, and I follow you, and I feel your pain because it's true. Why should we have to suffer? And they're talking about an A side and this side. When fighting was great, there was never an A side or B side. I mean, there was, but it wasn't spoken about like, well, he's the A side. You just assume. Guess what? The champion, he's going to come in the ring second. The champion, he's going to get his name announced second. The champion's going to have, it just happens that way.
Yeah, well.
Now.
Yeah, but what's worse is the fans expect. And let me tell you something. If you go and watch old footage, they used to bring the champion in first. He was the one announced first. He was the one that walked in the ring first. It wasn't the other way around. They started building drama when TV went for pay-per-views and stuff like that. Boxing was more on television in the 50s and early 60s than it ever was. There was so much boxing on TV that they had a separate TV guide just to keep track of all the different fights that were available on a weekly basis, multiple nights during the week. But my point here is, you got fans that are actually saying, well, it's okay that they make you wait. It's all part of the thing. It's part of this, part of that. Give me a break. I tell you what, if fans, and let's be real, if it wasn't for the fan, there'd be no boxing. If it wasn't for the fan, there'd be no NFL football or baseball or et cetera, et cetera. If they're not reaching into their pockets and paying for a ticket or buying a jersey or going to a pro fight, if they're not doing that, well, then the powers that be will change the situation so that they do. So the simple thing is, as long as fans keep buying into it and supporting and backing it up, they're going to keep getting fleeced. The fight that everybody wants in a heavyweight division is clearly Deontay Wilder challenging Anthony Joshua. There's no more need to marinate it. You don't need to build it up. We could make the argument that AJ's a bigger name than Deontay, which he is. But so what? Is Joseph Parker a big name? He's fighting AJ. Is Jarrell Miller a big name? Come on. Jarrell Miller and Anthony Joshua is as bad as Eric Molina and Deontay Wilder. That's how bad it is. Jarrell Miller is a bum. This is a bum we're talking about. This is a guy that has beaten no one, that all of a sudden is catapulted into the top echelon of the heavyweight division, and he's next in line should he get by Johan Duhaupas to fight AJ? I don't get it, Sal.
No, I know. It's hard. And, I'm hoping we wake up one day in the near future, and this all is just a facade and some stuff they're putting into the mix just to create some additional interest or news. And with Anthony Joshua's fight coming up and Deontay Wilder going to be ringside, that's a very good indicator that yes, maybe there'll be some WMA, whatever it's called, antics, WWE antics. But the bottom line is that if he's going to be there ringside, you can imagine and you could be assured that he's there for a purpose, and that's to promote their next fight if Anthony Joshua should get past Parker. And I'm sure of that. That's a telltale sign right there.
Listen. People are trying to say, oh, Deontay Wilder doesn't have the fan base. He doesn't. He doesn't have the fan base equal to Anthony Joshua. He doesn't. Whether Deontay wants to admit it, whether his followers want to admit it, whether his team wants to admit it, he doesn't. He's not as big of a draw as AJ. It's clear. Deontay Wilder made his first $2 million payday in his last fight. AJ makes, $20 million payday. But the truth of the matter is, how big of a draw is Joseph Parker? How many people? Exactly. How many people even know who Joseph Parker is?
Who?
And he's fighting AJ. And the selling point there is, he's got a belt. AJ wants all the belts. Guess what? Deontay's got a belt. And not only does he have a belt, he's got the green one. He's got the WBC belt. Listen,
that's right.
Nobody is a bigger fan than Anthony Joshua than me.
I know that 100%. You've been in his corner from the get-go.
But let's be fair. What's right is right, and the bottom line: should Anthony Joshua get past Joseph Parker, the two what-if fights, Parker, AJ, and Wilder Ortiz, would have already taken place. We do not need to be spoon-fed another joke matchup between AJ and the bum, Jarrell Miller, and then Dillian White, who's basically a better version of Derek Chisora. Okay, that's my feel. Listen, I like Dillian White, but he's not showing me anything. I mean, we just can't expect Deontay to fight this guy. I'm sorry. I feel very strongly about this, Sal.
I know you do, and I hear you. I can appreciate it. Let Dillian White and Baby Miller fight each other, and then let the loser of next week's bout fight Ortiz, and you got a round robin right there, like I said. And then let those two fight, and then they can fight the winner of that fight. You got 3 fights until one of those guys get a shot at the heavyweight championship, and by that time, it should be unified between Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua. I'm telling you, you got 2 years of heavyweight battles, number one. Number two, if you want to even see a real unique spin on this thing, why don't they have a contract in place, not only for a rematch clause between Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua, but a third potential fight, a rubber match, if the second fight takes place and the other opponent who lost the original fight, or the first fight, won that fight, they'd have to have a 3-fight contract. And that would be a unique clause, and that would be a year and a half of heavyweight championship fights that we could see, while these other guys are trying to get in there too.
Listen, I have the heavyweight rankings right in front of me, and I'm looking at it. First of all, I'm shocked. I'm shocked at the only, believe it or not, the only sanctioning body that does not have Jarrell Miller ranked in its top 10 or even ranked in its top 15. Which one?
WBC.
You're right. It's the only one. Every other one, check this out.
WBC is one of the most credible.
The IBF has Jarrell Miller ranked at number 3 in the world, behind Kubrat Pulev and in front of number 4, Dillian White. The WBC has Dillian White number 1. The WBA has Jarrell Miller at number 3, Dillian White all the way at number 9. The WBO has Jarrell Miller number 3, Dillian White number 4. I just don't understand how Jarrell Miller is even ranked in as high as he is. This guy has I can't even tell you one name on his resume that makes
money. It's called money under the table.
Listen, this guy is similar to the path that I was critical of Deontay Wilder. Hold that thought. I got to take a break. I got to throw up. I'll be back in 2.
Billy C will be right back.
Relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt. The innovative technology works to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
You know, similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
This is important news for women using birth control medications and devices. If you or a loved one have been diagnosed with a pseudotumor after using one of these birth control drugs or devices, you may be eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Contact the law firm of Davis & Crump right now if you or a loved one have used one of these birth control medications or devices and were diagnosed with a pseudotumor to see if you are eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Call now. Operators are standing by.
Hologram USA presents a proposal to all investors. Hologram USA is an innovative three-dimensional patented technology that shifted the paradigm in media technology. Our patented hologram technology that brought you Tupac and Coachella, Whitney Houston, Billie Holiday, and many more is integrating live performances to bring your favorite past and present entertainers beyond your imagination. Invest in the patented technology before the banks scoop up all the stock. Invest in Hologram USA today. Hologram USA Flagship Theater, located on Hollywood Boulevard's Walk of Fame, is the first of many to come. Call now to be part of the explosive growth. Pick up the phone. Dial the number on your screen now. Invest in Hologram USA today. Call the number on your screen right now to learn about this investment opportunity.
Call 800-624-1673. 800-624-1673. Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Now back to Talking Boxing with Billy C., the only radio host man enough to take a punch from Mike Tyson.
Wait a minute, man. Hold on there. Jeremy, man, I need you to take this one, all right?
Wait, what? No way. I can't do this.
Need I remind you I'm Billy C., damn it? Now put on that mustache and get in there.
Hey, look at me. I'm Billy C. Crap.
The undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. It's Talking Boxing with Billy C.
Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. And Sal and I are discussing the possibility of AJ, Anthony Joshua, should he get by Joseph Parker, coming to fight in the States over the summer and not fight Deontay Wilder. As a matter of fact, offer a fight to Deontay Wilder to fight on the undercard, which, I mean, in a way, Sal, Dillian White is the number one ranked contender of the WBC. They could spin it that it's a mandatory for Deontay Wilder. I could see that coming out of the woodwork to almost force Deontay. But at this point, no, I think some of AJ's credibility has to go out the window. And I don't want to hear from fans, oh, he's the A side, oh, he makes more money, oh, he's this, he's that. So what? What does that have to do with it? I don't care. You know, that was the one thing that always irritated the hell out of me about Floyd Mayweather. When people that would tell me that he was a good fighter, and I say, well, why? Why do you think? Give me a reason, you know, and you expect them to say all the things that Floyd did great. Oh, he was a defensive fighter, he's this, he's that. No, you know what they say? He's undefeated and he makes a lot of money. Well, what does it have to do with that he's the best fighter? I mean, you know, yeah, okay, he made the most money, he's undefeated, yeah, but what makes him great? You know, that how can that make a fighter great? Same thing with AJ, man.
Well, I think you're right, and like I said, I'd hate to see this fight not take place this year, and I think it's destined to do so. But you know, we need both willing dance partners, and if Anthony Joshua is the one that has an excuse or has a reason, or there are some things that come up with the whole minutia of this whole thing coming to be, then you know, it's going to hurt the fans, because that's the fight we want to see. And that's the fight that we feel is the most competitive in the heavyweight division at this time.
Yeah, well, it's aggravating. I think what's more aggravating to me, Sal, to be honest with you, is to see fans support it. And, you know, this is why, you know the old saying, give them an inch, they'll take a mile. Well, you know, boxing's a greedy sport. You pay for a ticket to see Anthony Joshua fight Jarrell Miller. And you know, don't be surprised if you don't see Wilder. I said you weren't going to see Wilder AJ till 2019, and you know, if they try to pull this over on the fans, you can almost take it to the bank that you won't see them in 2018.
No, I agree, and I think, you know, and I can see how they're going to spin this thing. They want to give Anthony Joshua exposure in the United States. They want him to have a fight here first. And, you know, I think it would be a great statement. Let Anthony Joshua put his money where his mouth is and come over here and fight Deontay Wilder for his first fight in the United States. He'll either be victorious and gain a lot of fans here and everything else, and he can go back to the Barclay and they'll have a rematch possibly if it's a good fight. Or, you know, he'll be dethroned and he'll scatterwag back to the UK with his tail between his legs. And then again, the next fight takes place in the UK, and Anthony Joshua is going to have to regain the title or try to regain the title from Deontay Wilder in the UK. So I think there's a great setup right there.
All right, so listen, I mean, we have this super chat in place, right? So, you know, people want to get on the show, whatever, they can, you know, do a super chat. But I'm gonna go beyond that. And I was just asked the question: if AJ was my fighter, Sal, I was just asked this question: if AJ was my fighter, would I? This is me now. Would I put him in back-to-back unification title fights? My answer to that is yes, and I'll tell you why. There's a rule in boxing that I've always applied and have been successful doing it, and so have many, many other people involved in the business. There's two things you never walk away from. One, a huge money fight. You know, if you're offered a huge money fight, even if the fight isn't suitable for you, whatever, it's hard to walk away from, especially, life-altering money. And you never walk away from a title shot. Now, in this particular case, Anthony Joshua already has a couple of the belts, and assuming that he beats Joseph Parker, he's going to have all of them but one. So the reason I would put him in back-to-back fights is because now you have an opportunity to not only get a humongous payday, and oh, by the way, this would be a double payday because it's a two-fight deal, okay? So you're talking about outrageous money, silly money, okay? And you have the opportunity to unify the heavyweight division, which hasn't been done in quite some time, where you're holding all the belts. No, I would never pass up this opportunity, ever. This makes no sense not to do it, Sal. Your thoughts?
No, well, it doesn't. I mean, that's what you and I have been saying. This is the fight that the fans and we want to see. And if I was Anthony Joshua's manager or promoter, yeah, you could dance around it. You're not supposed to, but you could dance around this. You could say there's other mandatories. You could say there's other rhetoric. You could say there's other things, and you could pull the wool over a lot of people's eyes and readdress it and represent it as a reason why you got to delay it. But the truth of the matter is that this is solely a fight that everybody wants to see who is a boxing fan and those that are not. I mean, this is going to be a fight that's going to be spoken about and promoted and talked about on by the water coolers. I mean, this is a big fight. This could be a great fight.
Now they're saying to me in the other chat room, "Oh, it's easy for you to say, Billy C, because you're not in the position. If you were, you'd be just as greedy as the rest." It's not about greed, Sal. I mean, it's a no-brainer to fight Deontay Wilder at this point. Let's follow the bouncing boxing glove. Let's say that you lose. What's the worst thing that can happen, right? You lose the fight, right? But if you're smart, if I'm Anthony Joshua's manager, I'm making damn sure that I have a rematch clause in the contract. So off an ironclad rematch clause, regardless of who wins. So at the minimum, if you lose the first one, you're getting another shot in the second one. And, oh, by the way, the name of the game, talk about being greedy. The name of the game is to make as much money as you can in the least amount of time, right? That's like anything. You could be a construction worker. You want to be a fighter. So why would Deontay Wilder or AJ or anybody else want to fight 10 fights at $1 million each when they could fight one fight and make $10 million? I don't get it. This is coming from people that don't understand this business. I've been involved in this business for 35 years. I've been a promoter. I still promote. I manage. I do all this stuff. I know what goes on. No, you never turn down a big life-altering money fight or a title fight, Sal. Those are two rules in this sport.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because guess what, fans? Guess what, boys and girls? There is no guarantee for tomorrow. I mean, I've seen fighters' careers end over a stupid little incident or an accident or a broken hand or that doesn't heal or a training injury. You have no guarantees. So the guarantee you can assure is to get the big money and to get the belts. And if they go hand in hand, guess what? That's the optimum choice to make, boys and girls. So, like I said, Bill, you could spin this 100 different ways. Anthony Joshua's camp should be touting right now, saying, well, we are looking so forward to having Deontay Wilder ringside. We'll have the contracts ready right after we get past Joseph Parker, and we're going to make sure that this fight takes place and we give the fans what they want in this year. Hey, that'll be a layup, wouldn't it?
I can't believe... damned if I do, damned if I don't. I can't. People are actually saying in multiple chat rooms that I'm only doing this to appease you today, Sal, because you are a Deontay Wilder fan. That is not true. Sal and I argue about this all of the time. Okay, I am an Anthony Joshua fan, but I'm a boxing fan first. And you know what? Everybody's got me wrong about Deontay. It's not that I don't like him. What I don't like about him is pounding his chest saying he's the best. That's what I love about Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua takes care of business. He's a blue-collar worker, but a blue-collar fighter. But listen, make no mistake. You don't pass up those kinds of opportunities. You can spin it anyway. AJ fights more than Deontay. Deontay's not as big of a draw. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. None of that is relevant. None of it matters. What matters is both fighters can make a hell of a lot of money by fighting two-fight deal, by making a two-fight deal with each other. I could go through this whole heavyweight picture right now, and I don't care what these sanctioning bodies, Dillian White ranked #1, please, even Jarrell Miller and all the rankings, come on. I mean, listen, it's all a joke. It's a scam. You guys fall for it. You know, hey, listen, I got a whole stock inventory full of bridges that I'm dying to sell really cheap. So all you idiots out there that are buying into this, give me a call because I got some cheap bridges for sale, Sal. I got that one that leads over to St. Simon's. That just got added to our inventory.
Easy. I'm trying to sell those myself.
Yeah. Anyway, let's. I don't know. I'm going to move on before my cardiologist.
I want you to check your blood pressure, Bill. You know what? That's a new thing you could start doing. Have a blood pressure monitor side by side. And, you know, when we start getting a heated debate here, you should take your blood pressure and let us know what the readings are.
The funny thing is it's not even I just don't understand. I think what's aggravating me is that there's numbers and a good number of people out there that are justifying it. Now, I mean, of course, Deontay Wilder fans are going to be, he's got to fight Wilder now. And I do know, you know, and I've said this and I've been on record as saying it, that Deontay Wilder turned down a fantastic offer. It was something like $7 million plus the U.S. television rights to fight Deontay Wilder. This was prior to the Luis or
Anthony Joshua.
Deontay Wilder was offered $7 million. Right. Deontay Wilder was offered $7 million plus the U.S. television rights to fight Anthony Joshua in England, and they turned it down. Okay. Yes, stupid decision. But now it's a little different. We have Deontay Wilder coming off of a huge win, an exciting fight, okay, which is important. Wasn't just some snooze fest. Wasn't him going through the motions. Wasn't him just, you know, overpowering somebody in a minute. It was a back and forth fight that saw Deontay in some serious trouble. He proved a lot. Now the ante has to be increased. The demand is there. There's no reason to wait. I'm sorry. And I know Anthony Joshua could fight me or you and make $20 million. I get it, you know. But if you don't want to lose fans and you don't want people to start, you know, thinking negatively, you need to fight Deontay. Shut him up once and for all. Shut Deontay up, and then you know we can move on from there. That's the way I look at it, Sal.
Well, I think you say it perfectly clear. I mean, I understand the picture. I understand what you're saying, and like I said, I think it's if the fans have the outcry, for this fight to happen. I think both promoters or both camps should heed and listen. And I think you know it's a game of chicken. We'll see who opts out first and or calls each other out on their desire to fight. We'll see.
Well, I don't know. But speaking of heavyweights, there was two young fighters, I said at the beginning of the show, in Europe, in Germany specifically, are all stepping up and fighting each other. Something you won't see Jarrell Baby Miller do. He's not fighting any good fighters. But Ajit Cabello is 17-0 with 12 knockouts. He's the current European heavyweight champ. He's taken on Miljan Rovakanin, who's 18-1. And this is taking place on April 21st. And also the co-main event is Tom Schwartz, who's a top-ranked fighter, 20-0 with 13 knockouts, taking on Sinid Gashi, who's undefeated at 16-0. So you got a 17-0 taking on an 18-1 and a 20-0 taking on a 16-0. I love it. It's taking place in Germany on April 21st. Some other fights that were announced, Saddam Ali, who just had picked up the WBO junior middleweight title 26-1, 14 knockouts, is making his first title defense against former world champion and number 1 ranked contender Liam Smith. It's taking place at one of my favorite places to go to, the Turning Stone Resort and Casino, in May 12th. It sounds like that's going to be on the Hall of Fame weekend. Will be on HBO. Saddam Ali said, "It felt great to accomplish my dream of becoming a world champion. I'm excited to defend my title and to demonstrate that it's not up for grabs. Liam Smith is a great fighter, and I'm sure he will be ready for this fight, but so will I." Smith says, "I'm confident going into the fight. I know I'm a naturally bigger fighter, and that will come into play, especially in the type of the fight that I think it's going to be." So, in any event, Arthur Abraham, one of my favorite middleweights, and he moved to super middleweight, has seen better days. It used to drive me insane watching him with that turtle defense. But for all intent and purposes, in his last fight, he had lost to what's his name, Jr., Chris Eubank Jr., and I figured it was time for him to ride off into the sunset, Sal. But nay, it was announced yesterday that he is not ready to retire and that he's coming back again April 28th. He's taking on Patrick Nelson, who's a 29-2 fighter out of Denmark, to prove that he's still got some fight left in him. Arthur Abraham, former 2-division world champion, 46-6. I think he's pushing the envelope here, my man.
Oh, I think you're right, pal. And we'll see what happens there. I think you hit it right on the head, though. That's a tough one to look at.
We also had the WBA. I got some emails I want to read, but the WBA has ordered at least negotiations for their mandatory title fight. The current champion, Kirill Relika, is supposed to take on number 3 rated Edward Troyansky. And Daniel Roman taking on the interim champion Moses Flores. Both of these fighters have been ordered to start negotiations. They gave each of them 30 days to come to an agreement. Otherwise, both of those fights will go to purse bids. So we'll keep an eye on that. Okay, I just wanted to say, you guys heard me criticize Don King's main trainer, Stacey McKinley. And when we were breaking down the Amir Aman fight, I said the reason why I was picking Ramirez, and I happen to like Amir Aman, was because of Stacey McKinley. He's got this curse. And sure enough, Sal and I were talking about some of his stupid instructions telling Amir Aman to save his right. Don't throw your right. Don't throw your right. And he's still telling him this after the 6th and 7th round. And the fight is dwindling away. I mean, the stupidest advice I've ever heard. Well, check this out. It was announced yesterday that challenger Isaac Ekbo for the he's going to be challenging Tyrone Zouge for the super middleweight title. He's 32-3. He's from Nigeria, and his gym partner Rafael Mensa, who's 31-0, who's also taken on a champion in Alberto Machado in the super featherweight division. Both of these guys are now under the Don King banner and will be training with Stacey McKinley for their first upcoming world title fights. Ekbo will be fighting Sunday in his rematch against Tyrone Zouge. Mark my words. Keep an eye on the results of this fight. Stacey McKinley, the curse. It's in. Both of these guys are going to lose, Sal. What do you think?
I think, I'll tell you what, I'm curious just to see if that formula does come to fruition. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see that, pal. I think that's a good call. We'll see if
we'll see if McKinley is that bad of a curse. But anyway,
oh boy, I don't know. I tell you what, though, whether he is or not, I wouldn't want him in my corner.
I got a couple of emails. Let's start with my man Jesse. He says, "Hey, Billy C and Sal, excellent bout between Ramirez and Amir Aman. Ramirez showed heart and determination. He has flaws. He must correct, like." He doesn't move his head that much. He's slow with his lead shots, and he's not too accurate. He missed very badly on some shots on Aman, who has great reflexes and speed and accuracy. Yeah, well, you listen to what you're saying. You're saying that he missed badly on Amir, who's got great reflexes and speed and accuracy. That's why he missed. You got to give Amir Rahman credit. He says, but he wasn't consistent with his punches. Don King even said that. He's talking about Amir. He wasn't consistent because he was listening to stupid Stacey McKinley in the corner. But anyway, he says Jose's mandatory Regis Progress went to talk to Bob about the fight, but Bob said, let's build this fight up. I disagree. They should fight within the next 5 months. I do agree that with you that Roach works better with fighters who are aggressive, maybe because he has more to work with those fighters. In the late rounds, Roach told Jose to throw his jab and go straight right down the middle. And Jose followed the instructions and had good results because Aman was tired standing there and he had his right eye shut. He says, I didn't watch the Gavadzik fight. I hope he gets Adonis Bado Jack winner, which he is their mandatory. Like I've always said, this marination process is BS because, Sal, every time a big fight takes place, another one is there after. What do you think?
Oh, you said it all the time, and you say it all the time, I'm sorry. And that's exactly what happens. One fight takes place, it spawns off another fight. And we see, when we look for continually sharpening the point, and that's what the divisions are trying to do. When you're trying to sharpen the point of a division, you could shave off here, you could shave off there, but it always will create more opportunities for these fighters to get in a ring and fight each other. So hopefully the top fighters will eventually face each other for championships.
Well, it's comical. What's even worse is that the fans seem to accept it. But anyway, and as far as Freddie Roach is concerned, Freddie Roach is an offensive-minded fighter, trainer. He very rarely, yes, he can give good instruction like Jesse's referring to here when it comes to offensive spots that a fighter can score on and stuff that he sees, but it is more to boxing than offense. I mean, you need the greatest fighters having a balance between offense and defense, and the best fighters can use defense to set up their offense, and that's something that brawlers don't do. They just use their offense as defense and their offense as offense. So their offense. There's a lot of offense going there.
They're being offensive.
Yeah, I don't want to mean to be offensive. And he says, by the way, Sammy Valentin got knocked out by Arizia, and it was quick. Do you think he should retire for his own safety because the knockout came so fast? Is it more damaging than taking shots for many rounds? I feel for his safety. To get caught really quickly, you gotta. I didn't see the fight, so you got to look at two things. Was he just overwhelmed? Was he caught? Was he cold? He went in there a little lazy beginning of the fight, expecting a feel-out round, and got caught. But there are plenty of studies shown, and by the way, if I'm with Sammy Valentin right now, I definitely go get him checked out. I mean, he did get knocked out in his in a previous fight that the effects could still be lingering. But yes, I would have him checked out. But the truth of the matter is, the studies have shown, Sal, that a sustained beating over 10 rounds, 12 rounds of taking excessive shots to the head actually does more damage than a swift knockout. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, that's what the studies have said, and I think that. But any knockout, whether it's quick or over a course of a fight or rounds, when you have that sudden jolt and the brain bounces off the skull and causes you to lose consciousness, and you're damaging your brain. Your brain has sustained swelling or has sustained, I'm not sure, I'm not a brain surgeon, so I don't know, and I didn't stay at the Holiday Inn last night, so I really don't know because it is sensitive. But I will tell you this, any time that you're knocked out, it's going to cause brain damage to a degree. You're losing some cells, you're losing some things, and and the brain is something that doesn't regenerate itself as easily or at all. And so the more cells you lose, which you can make an argument over a course of a 10 or 12 round fight, if you constantly get jarred and are taking blows, you're constantly getting knocks and losing cells. And, I truly believe that there are those fighters or those athletes that are predisposed to that kind of head trauma that may offer to heed them in the future or give them trouble in the future than others. I mean, you want to look at a classic case. I mean, Jake LaMotta. Who took more beatings than Jake LaMotta? I mean, his best defense was his chin. And the bottom line is he was just a gutsy, hard-hitting, conditioned, heartful fighter that came to win every fight. But if he got hit or he got stopped or he didn't go down, look at Jake. He wasn't knocked out. He didn't have any time where he was really unconscious or so. He sustained brutal beatings over the course of a round or over the course of a fight. But he lived to be age 95, had his faculties, was able to take care of himself, from what I understand. And, that shows a case in point or an argument right there.
No doubt. But, that's why I keep saying that if fighters had a head scan on file, you can't just go by what the book says. Everybody's
you can't.
Is different.
Everyone's uniquely different. And that's why I'm saying certain people are more predisposed to trauma and damage than others, I believe. And your case in point, Billy, you said it right there. Everybody should have on file a benchmark MRA of their brain to see where it is that they can pull up anytime they're after a brutal fight or anytime they were knocked out, and do a comparison, get an in-depth look at what's going on in their brain. You said it right there. That's a great scenario.
But then again, because that might cost somebody money, Sal. They don't want to think of the safety of the fighters, But hold that thought. I got some more emails. Don't go anywhere because we'll be back in 2.
Billy C will be right back. Part of the Billy C Boxing Network.
Snacking has never been this exciting. At Graze.com, we combine wholesome ingredients with the flavors we all love to create over 100 exciting snacks, like these. We'd love to send you a Graze sampler box for free. Just go to Graze.com, enter the code ENJOY36, and we'll mail your free box to your home or office. Join thousands of Grazers already in love with our exciting snacks. So come to Graze.com for your first box free. Need relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt. The innovative technology works to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
Similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604. Listen.
Endless pools are an incredible alternative to traditional pools, making it easy and inexpensive to swim at home. Exercise year-round against a smooth current set to your desired pace and temperature. With our new underwater treadmill, you can walk or run without stressing your joints. Endless pools are simple to install and even simpler to maintain. The water stays crystal clear with almost no chlorine. Call for your free idea kit and experience the freedom of swimming at home.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. He may not have an Excellence in Broadcasting award, but the night's still young.
And he's got martinis.
So you never know what may be by morning. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C.
Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. And, yeah, my blood pressure's going today, Sal, because of... it bothers me that when the fans support things that aren't good for the sport, that kind of bothers me more than the topic at hand, which is I just feel that there's no reason to wait. I mean, AJ against Deontay Wilder, providing Anthony Joshua gets past Joseph Parker next week, is the next fight for both of those guys. I think it's a layup. But anyway, I got a couple of more emails. This one's from my man Morgan. He says, "Hey, Billy C. and Sal, lately you and Larry Hazard have been discussing judging. I totally agree that things have to change. Not using the point available is dumb. If fighter A is dominating fighter B but gets dropped with a flash knockdown, then the round should be scored 10-9, not 10-8. And Larry and I talk about this all the time, Sal. That's a 3-point swing. It actually happened a couple of weeks ago in a fight. And Steve Farhood even scored at 10-8, where the one fighter is beating the other guy, and then he gets dropped towards the end of the round, and then most judges score at 10-8 for the guy who dropped him, even though he could have been losing up to that point. So he says it's a 3-point swing, really. He says
it's a good point.
Yeah, no, it's a 3-point. No, he says
it's a good point.
It's a 3-point. It's a 3-point. On the other hand, if a fighter A is winning but not dominating, it gets dropped. It should be 10-8, of course. He says a knockdown is a big moment in a match, and the fighter should be rewarded, but not every time. Another way of improving judging is to be more lenient with extra points. For example, fighter A dominates the round without a knockdown, but it's only scored 10-9. This is a clear 10-8. One more scenario is if a boxer knocks a guy down and dominates the round, it could be a 10-7. I'm also in favor of more even rounds. I'd rather see a fight decided on 2 or 3 points on a 2 or 3 point round than being decided on the round that could have went either way. See, that's the main issue. Great email, Morgan. Yes. And that's Larry's point all the time. If a fighter is dominating, like let's take that round that Luis Ortiz fought Deontay Wilder. Many people felt that it was a 10-8 round, which it should have been. I mean, he battered Wilder from ring post to ring post. Now, if he had knocked down Wilder stayed on his feet, but if Ortiz had knocked down Wilder, in that case, you could have justified scoring that round 10-7. I'm just using that as an example because it's fresh in our minds. So, that's a good point. And then the other thing is exactly what Morgan says here, Sal, is that, if you have a fight, 10, 12-round fight, and there's a couple of rounds where one of the fighters dominated and you're scoring at 10-9, 10-9, 10-9, and then the other guy loses because the 1 or 2 close fights went his way, or the other guy wins because 1 or the 2 rounds were close and the judges gave it to him, but earlier in the fight he was dominated by his opponent. Sometimes we don't get the scores right. And I agree that the points have to be used, don't you think, or no?
Well, I think the points have to be used. And, I'll tell you what, I look at fights a little differently when I started looking at each round as 3 sub-rounds. And like I said, if I really can't enjoy a fight totally if I sit down and score it, because I want to see all the nuances of what a fighter's thinking and doing and how it looks like, and I want my opinion and human error and come into play of judging who I think won a fight. But when you're judging a fight, you look at I now look at a boxing round, which is 3 minutes, 3 sub-rounds, and then the 2 out of 3 majority will win, or if they're a draw, it's a draw. And I have no problem with giving a round as an even round when I think both fighters have exhibited an equal ebb and flow of offense and defense. But if I look at the 1 round, I'll look at what's taking place in that first minute. Who's looking like they're more aggressive? Who's being effective? Who's more defensive? Who's doing this? The second minute, another round. A third minute. There's 3 rounds in a sub-round. And whoever got the 2 out of 3, I give that round to. It's more of what I feel because of the fact that you see too many times where a fighter can be winning the round or losing the round, but in the last minute turn it on and leave that opinion of what was last in the judge's minds and the fans' mind of being offensive and winning that round.
All right, we got some topics that are being thrown at me from all these different chat rooms. So although I was told that we're supposed to incorporate super chat, I want to address them. First and foremost, scores that there's a lot of movement in the sport right now where they want the scorecards to be public. In other words, so the fans can see it, the corners can see it, et cetera, et cetera. I am not for that, and I'll tell you why. A fighter that looks up on the screen and sees that he's dominating might stop, might decide that, hey, I got this fight in the bag. I'll never forget Oscar De La Hoya. You got this fight coast the last 2 rounds, and he loses the last 2 rounds, loses the fight. I think that could produce a negative impact on the fighter that's winning. The fighter that's losing, if he's looking up at the scorecard, maybe he's more enticed to stop. I'm not going to win this fight, rather than trying to go for the knockout. You never know. It depends what the makeup is. So, no, I don't think that the scores should be made public. I do think we should tighten up our scoring system like Sal and I were just discussing. Now, as far as some other topics that were being thrown at me, as far as champions and who they fight, et cetera, let's make no mistake, boys and girls. I happen to have the heavyweight rankings of the 4 major sanctioning bodies here, and it's a mismatch. It's a modge-podge of different names. The way sanctioning bodies work today is, and keep in mind, I'm not just saying this. I was involved with a sanctioning body, so I know very well how they rank fighters and et cetera, et cetera. And one of the things that they do is that when a fighter becomes part of a sanctioning body, and that's kind of what happens, they get ranked, they get an opportunity for a trinket, a lower-end title, and they kind of become married to that sanctioning body. And then that sanctioning body helps them, et cetera, et cetera. What I developed years ago was a way that the 4 major sanctioning bodies could keep their champions, keep their money, keep their claws into the cash cow, and we could form a league based on those 4 sanctioning bodies and crown undisputed champions, all at the same time, where the sanctioning bodies wouldn't lose their cash cows. And once again, because of the cost factor, that it would cost something, that there would be extra sanctioning fees. It's, people don't want to do it. It's the same thing with unions. There's been a lot of discussion. Boxers need a union. Well, that's a great idea, except for one small problem. Agreed. You get a fighter that's part of a union, and he's being protected by the union, and then all of a sudden a scab, and I say scab meaning someone that's not in a union, makes an offer to fight a non-union fighter and throws a boatload of cash at the guy. How quickly you think that union fighter is going to leave the union and go fight for the money? So, it becomes human instinct. But one of the questions was, should only champions fight other champions for unification? And the answer is yes, because I believe that we get wrapped up with these so-called mandatory challengers that we never get to see the fights that we want. And other scenarios can happen. A fighter could get injured. A fighter could decide to retire. A fighter could lose, get upset. All these things. The most important thing that I would think, if I were going to be if I was a young man and I was going to be a fighter today, I would want to prove that I'm the best. And just to get a belt doesn't signify that anymore. You'd have to beat all of the people in your weight class. That proves you're the best. I don't know else how to say it. I mean, I think that unification is critical in the sport of boxing. It gives the fans the fights they want. And to marinate a fight with the suggestion that it's the only big fight, that's BS. There's always another big fight that will take its place. What's your thoughts on all of that, Sal?
Well, you know how I feel, Bill. There should be one champion for each division, weight division, and it's never going to happen again like that. But if they had an opportunity to unify a title, and why fans would be so excited for that is because they want their champion, to be the undisputed champion. And I think it definitely should showcase, and I think every sanctioning body should understand that their fighter, whoever they have declared as champion, should look forward to a unification fight with one of the other belts. And I mean, it's something that should take place on a regular basis.
What, the unifications, right?
Yeah, the unifications. Yeah. I wish, and it was sad, Bill. What's really sad, there's enough sanctioning bodies that a unification could be almost like a round-robin tournament and take place. It's almost like an ultra, super. Hey, watch this. Hey, you know what? We're going to create a sanctioning body. It's going to be called the champion sanctioning body. You're going to have every champion from the sanctioning bodies listed in the top 5, top 4. And then that's who they have to fight each other in round-robin going there.
Listen,
for the super ultra champion. How's that?
The truth of the matter is, we can blame the sanctioning bodies, and the sanctioning bodies, in my opinion, are pretty much near the top when it gets to the whose fault is it that we don't see the great fights. You could pretty much say the sanctioning bodies are at fault, especially when they pollute a potential fight with a mandatory. They slip a mandatory in. But the real people that are at fault are the promoters, and I'll tell you why. In case y'all forgot, which was I think a platinum record by Roy Jones Jr., in case y'all forgot, the promoters have to pay a fee, a sanctioning fee. So what has happened over the years, and the reason why you see so many belts, you be me, I be you belt, all these belts, right? I did an interview with Sugar Ray Leonard, and he was saying the same thing. He's going, with all these belts, you be me, I be you. I thought it was funny. But anyway.
That's funny.
I got to break that one out. I promised that I'm going to, one of these days when I got time, I'm going to take all these interviews that I have and put them together. And
you should put a collage, yeah.
But anyway, the promoter who is in a position to put on a championship fight, and keep in mind now, just like the kids get their participation trophies, promoters today, because they don't really promote, and just like television networks, they feel they can't sell a fight unless there's a title on it. So number one, it opens that door for a title. So the casual fan doesn't know what title. All they know is that there's a title. Have you ever seen when these fighters walk into the ring now, they got to have 9, 10, 12 people carrying all the belts that they have, and they're not even a world champion yet, and they got a dozen belts, But it's a joke. But what happens is a promoter, let's say, wants to go to a major sanctioning body, just for argument's sake, let's say the WBC, and they say, hey, we got this fight, we got so and so against so and so, and the fight's approved by the WBC for a regional title or one of their many titles, not a world title, right? And and they say, okay, this is how much the sanctioning fee is going to be. And the promoter says, whoa, I can't afford to pay that. So what the promoter does, he goes to one of these cheesy sanctioning bodies. He ends up getting a title put on the line for a fraction of the cost. And the casual fan, all they know is that it's for a such and such title. There's no value. So really what these sanctioning bodies have done is actually devalue the belts. And by having all these other belts, continental, intercontinental, European, blah, 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 all these belts, it's
interim.
It's simple supply and demand, Sal.
Yeah,
when there was one belt, somebody was talking to me the other day about Henry Armstrong. Henry Armstrong held 3 belts in 3 different weight classes simultaneously. Now,
Unbelievable.
If you think about that today,
it won't happen.
People might, well, here's the thing. People might, it won't happen. But people might not realize how great of an achievement that really is. And the reason is because the weight classes are separated by a healthy trip to the bathroom. And back then there were only 8 weight classes. So to hold 3 simultaneously is quite a feat. That's why it'll never be done again, ever.
Never.
And not only that, but most sanctioning bodies won't let you compete in multiple weight classes. So, just to, when you look at, A, the number of fighters there were during that time, and B, the amount of weight classes there were at that time, and C, there were only 10 top 10 contenders. There wasn't 40 or 50 guys,
No.
So I mean, it's all relative. So that's what it aggravates me, because technically we have better athletes today, but we have a watered down system, so we can never, that's why, how do you really put them in perspective? You got a guy that wins a belt. Manny Pacquiao wins 8 different world titles in 8 different weight classes. It sounds great, but how do you put it in perspective? Did he unify 8? No, he did not unify 8. He won world titles in 8 different classes, but it's not like he beat everybody in every weight class and then moved up. He didn't. He picked up a belt and then he moved up. Similar to what Mikey Garcia is thinking of doing. Beats one guy, picks up a belt, gets the tag, and then he moves up. It's not like he cleaned out every division. And I think that matters, don't you?
Oh, of course it does. I believe it matters tremendously. We should do an exercise one day, Bill. We should form our own world sanctioning body and call it the WBS, and that would stand for World Bill and Sal Bill. But we could say BS has another connotation behind it. But the bottom line is, what would it take for you and I to form a sanctioning body besides money? What are the steps? You know the mechanics of the ins and outs more than I do. It's a lot of applications, a lot of paperwork, a lot of things, but it takes mostly a lot of money.
That's all it takes. That's all it takes. Listen, I've always said, this is the joke, and I hate to make fun of it because it's my sport. But all it takes to get involved in the sport of boxing, right? But Sal, this is the sad truth.
I know.
All it takes.
Let's form our own sanctioning body. What does it take? Tell me.
All it takes is money. All right. All it takes is money and willing people to pay a sanctioning fee. But when you look at the sport of boxing, if you take any other sport. And I know somebody's going to say, well, that's a team sport or whatever. You take football, or you take baseball, or you take basketball, whatever. In order to get involved in that sport, all right, you really got to start as a youngster. You need to play the sport. You need to learn about the sport. And you move on, and you might, play through high school. Maybe even you're good enough to play college. Maybe even get into the pros, whatever. Then maybe you get into coaching if you're on a football team, and you're not big enough, you're not strong enough, whatever. You get into coaching, or you buy a team, or whatever the case is. But your background is in the sport. I've never seen anyone involved in any sport other than boxing that doesn't have a background in that sport. Boxing is the only sport that Joe Schmo, who never put on a boxing glove in his life, never even watched a boxing event, could not only become involved in the sport as a promoter or a manager or anything like that just by having actual money in a checking account and writing a check, but the saddest part is that forget my background in this sport. Yes, manager, blah, blah, blah. But the one thing I've never done is I've never trained a fighter. I'm not a trainer. I've never said I was. I never acted like one. I've been involved with my trainers, and I watch what they do with my fighters, and I can question. I can ask the trainer. I can see what's being done. I can pick up things with fighters, yes, no, whatever. But I've never trained, and I would never try to train a fighter. But here's the sad truth, and I've said this before. You know what it takes for me to be a trainer? About $25, because I could go to a sanctioning body at a weigh-in and buy a trainer's license, a seconds license, a chief seconds license, and be issued a license, and I could be the guy that's the main trainer in that corner for a world title fight, for any fight that night, without ever training anyone. And that is sad, Sal.
Well, it is sad, and it's a shame. Hey, how many people make up in a world sanctioning body a group of employees, or is it just a couple people with that kind of pep? I'm going somewhere with this. Do we have an idea of how many people can be in charge or comprised of a world sanctioning body?
Well, I know one specific sanctioning body that there's one guy, and he does it all. But it depends how big the sanctioning body is. Realistically, a sanctioning body, you have to not only have a belt and a fee, but you got to have an inspector, a guy that's there, making sure at the fight. You got to have a belt manufacturer to get the belt. I mean, it's not difficult. It's not difficult. And that's the sad part of it, Sal. It's a joke. It's a joke.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You said something before about boxers being included or being involved with the sport of boxing. Why don't these sanctioning bodies that take all these fees provide jobs for these fighters that are retiring or so, or try to give them a venue to be productive in their sanctioning body or something else? That's why I was asking the amount of employees or what it takes. I don't know, and it doesn't sound like it would be feasible or doable for the multitude of reasons that you just mentioned.
Well, the main reason is we don't need another belt, Sal. But what we do need. Hey, as a matter of fact, that's another story. But
no, that's another story for another day. But you and I should form a sanctioning body.
No, what we should do is form what we said and forget investors, because investors. The only way people fork over money these days is if they're guaranteed, and there's no such thing as guaranteed. And speaking about forking over money, you want our show at your place if you're in charge of or own a casino or hotel or sports bar or a gym or a cruise ship. I like those. And you want our show, drop me an email. We have a whole package that we're offering to get us to. We want to do a tour, and we need places to go, so hook us up. But anyway, a couple more emails real quick. This one's from my man, Coach. He says, hey, Billy C., it seems the WBA may have seen the light, mandating fights like super bantamweight Daniel Roman taking on Moses Flores and lightweights Kyril Relik going up against Edward Troyansky. Gotta love it when the sanctioning bodies make fighters actually fight. What's your thought? Is this a fluke? Or have they truly seen the light? Listen, the WBA has been claiming that they want to clean up and get rid of the interim belts. I think they're on their 4th year already, and they still have interim belts. I would love the fact that they have real fighters fighting real fights. The question is how real is a fighter with a 27-1 record or a 25-0 record or a 22-2 and 24-2-1, just like all these fighters are named? How good are they? Who are the people that they fought? When you look at these sanctioning bodies and their ranking system, which, I happen to have the heavyweight list right here, it's sickening. I've really learned to go, when I want to see how good a fighter is, I look at the computer rankings. And to be honest with you, I know BoxRec has a pretty decent computer ranking system, but the best computer ranking system out there happens to be the IBO computer ranking system. And people look at me like I got 3 heads. First of all, the IBO, the sanctioning body, I have them at number 5. As a matter of fact, I think they're more reputable right now than the WBA, but that's besides the point. But the IBO's computer ranking system, the reason why I believe it's the best is they don't necessarily have their guy as the best. In other words, if there's a guy, if Sal is their IBO champion and he doesn't, the program doesn't spit him out as the number one guy, they'll list him wherever he is. If he's actually, by the computer, the number 5 guy, on their own ranking system, they will have Sal number 5, even though he's their IBO champion. No other sanctioning body does that. Every other sanctioning body has their guy as the champ, and their guys that are ranked underneath are generally, especially the high-ranked guys, if they're scheduled to fight another sanctioning body fight, they mysteriously get removed from the rating. So, for an example, with Dillian White at the WBC in the heavyweight division ranked number 1, I would bet you every nickel I had that if all of a sudden the WBA, who has him ranked number 9, or better yet, the WBO at number 4 or the IBF at number 4, give him a world title shot against somebody other than the WBC, he would immediately get removed from their rankings. And that I have a problem with. You have a guy ranked at number 1. Next thing you know, he's fighting another sanctioning body, and he disappears from your rankings. How can you justify that, Sal?
No, you can't. That's it's like childish little games, and it's politics as usual. And unfortunately, politics really should not be brought in. It should be something that is done through the merits and the earnings of a fighter, of how they stack up against the other opposition on a top tier level.
We got one last email. This one. This is from my man Johnston. Well, look at the subject. I'm about to get a relapse. Look, the subject in here is Joshua Miller and Wilder versus White, all on the same card in August. He says, "Good morning, guys. The latest interview from Eddie Hearn," and this is what I was reading. I read the interview this morning. So he's sending me an email now. He says, the latest interview from Eddie Hearn makes for interesting reading. If Dillian White and Anthony Joshua are both successful in their fights against Lucas Brown and Joseph Parker, respectively, then we could see a big summertime card in the States. The two Londoners traveling to the other side of the pond would take on Deontay Wilder and Jarrell Miller. The UK's number 1 and number 2 versus America's number 1 and number 2. Wilder versus White and Joshua versus Miller. See, I have no problem with Jarrell Miller fighting Dillian White. I think that's an even matchup, But he says Wilder White, Joshua Miller on the same card in August, with the winners fighting each other at the end of the year. With White currently the number 1 contender for the WBC, and if he gets past Brown, then Wilder will almost have his hand forced. And if that's true, at the moment, Hearn said AJ White too. In other words, if White wins, that fight, he says, I know that Joshua will fight Dillian White again. I think if you asked him and he said, tell me one fight that you want, he would say Dillian White, because he loved the fight and he felt as though he wasn't at his best. He lost a rag a little bit, meaning his stagger. He says, but he's improved so much and he loves having a tear-up, and he knows Dillian will give him a tear-up. He loves to build up. He wants people to go at him at the pressers. AJ does. He says, but they seem to lose their bark a little bit when they're in front of him. Hearn on White Brown says it's a really big fight for the division, and the winner, Wilder and AJ, are looking at this fight and saying the winner is 1,000,000% on my radar. All the AJ talks about is fighting Dillian White again, because he seems to really want to do that. Of course, Lucas Brown is a former world champion and he's undefeated. So if he beats Dillian, all of a sudden he's a major player. This, for me, is the most important part, and the best fight outside of the championship fights. The winner is going to be number 1 in the WBC, because Dillian is already number 1 in the WBC. He's going to be on the top 5 in every other governing body you got there. Hearn on Wilder, White. I would like him to fight Wilder. I think that if we, meaning he and Joshua, didn't fight Wilder next, and we had our August fight, then we could do Dillian White against Wilder. Everybody wants to see AJ versus Wilder. It's difficult, but I would like to see Dillian get a shot at the world title before he fights AJ. What do you guys think? A stacked heavyweight card in New York City or Vegas? First of all, the fight, they are bringing a fight to New York, the Barclays Center. No disrespect to Dillian White, but that's not a fight I want to see. I don't want to see Deontay Wilder, and I've said it all. We already talked about it for an hour today. I don't want to see Deontay Wilder fight anybody else but Anthony Joshua. And quite honestly, I don't want to see Anthony Joshua fight anyone else next, assuming he gets by Joseph Parker, other than Deontay Wilder. That's the fight in the heavyweight division. Deontay Wilder against Anthony Joshua. There's no more waiting. There's no more preliminary fights. There's no more BS. Let's be real. Dillian White against Jarrell Baby Miller, if you want to mix him in. Lucas Brown obviously is fighting him. You got all these other young fighters that can fight each other to move up. Nobody's mentioning Kubrat Pulev. He's another good fighter. Dominic Brazil, another good fighter. Luis Ortiz, if he's going to continue, let's not forget him. What about Alexander Povetkin? These are all legitimate contenders that should be fighting each other to position themselves for a title. You see, what happens today is you get a bum like Jarrell Miller, who's fought nobody in the top 10 or 15 of any of these sanctioning bodies, and yet he's at number 3 and number 4. And I just don't understand. Well, I do understand because they get paid off, but I don't understand how a fighter can move so quickly up in the ranks in a sanctioning body when they've never fought a guy above them on the ladder, Sal. That's the way a contender system should work.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And, it's hard to really present it any other way. I mean, that's the reality. That's the realistic picture that I see and I share with you. And it's unfortunate that, they buffalo the fans and people that believe something other than the difference of what you do to show that the cream is rising to the top and the two best fighters will ultimately be vying for a world title.
And here's what else you get. If they that's first of all, boys and girls, if you're not old enough to know, that's how it used to be. You used to, the system, the sequence would be you walk into the gym as a kid and you start boxing, you become an amateur. You fight as an amateur, you become a pro. Then you work your way up to become a prospect. Then after a prospect, you become a contender. And then you climb the contender ladder until you become the number 1 ranked contender, and that's who the champion fights. The champions used to always fight the number 1 guy. Now, if you listen to the wording, the champion gets to fight the first available contender in our rankings. First available? You mean like if he's going to Disney World or something, he's not available? Or, if he broke his toenail, he's not available? Or if he won't agree to the purse, he's not available? What kind of BS is that? Listen, the best way to get the best fighter, and here's what it eliminates. If you make fighters climb the ladder and beat the guy that's positioned above them, then when you have them fight a champion, or even a number 5 guy fighting a 4 guy, or a number 2 guy fighting a 1 guy, what you end up with is a good fighter. You get these Jarrell Millers who have been hand-fed cupcakes, and he certainly looks it because he's a cupcake away from 600 friggin' pounds, all right? I mean, the truth of the matter is that you develop a good fighter. Yes, there's risks that you lose. So what? There's nothing wrong with a loss. It shouldn't diminish the value. I know it does, but it shouldn't. And then when you get these title fights, you end up with a good fight. Instead of getting a guy, a Deontay Wilder, for 39 of his 40 fights has fought slugs, bums, and he destroys them all. And then he finally fights a good fighter, and now you can give him accolades. But before that, did he really earn to be, what he said he was? The Jarrell Miller, did he earn to be a top contender? Even Dillian White, did he earn it? Yeah, he fought Anthony Joshua, but come on. Show me these guys climbing the ranks. Show me them fighting other contenders. They don't. When a fighter gets into top 10 status, they avoid other top 10 contenders. They wait and wait and wait, and eventually their number's called, Sal. That's the way the system works.
Well, you said it right there, and you spelled it out for everybody, and that's how the system works.
It's nerve-wracking because
well, it is nerve-wracking. I know that, but it's not going to change either.
Well, it's not going to change when fans accept it.
Well, they buy into it and they believe it because it's what they are being told and what they believe it that it's people go through the path of least obstruction.
Yeah, but Sal,
and you know what?
Sal, we've had this discussion. When I put the analogy with another sport. Okay, if you're going to be talking football or baseball, and your team plays the worst team every week, or if it's baseball, every series is against the same team over and over and over, and you're slapping the crap out of them every single week, and you finish your season undefeated, are you really the best? I mean, would you watch it anymore? If your team was playing the same team every week, the same crappy team every week, and you could almost bet your last dollar on the fact that you're going to win every week, would you think it's the best team? Would you keep watching? The answer is no. Of course you wouldn't.
Money.
No, of course you wouldn't. But the truth is that's what happens to boxing fans, and they accept it. I love when people start explaining to me how the system works. Oh, that's not how it works, Bill. The reason why it works like that is because you got to build momentum. You got to do this. You got to do it. You don't have to tell me how the system works. I know how the system works. I'm just telling you how you can make this sport great again by, forcing fighters to fight. It's a simple formula, Sal.
No, I agree. And it is. You just said it. Force the top fighters to fight each other and whittle it down. Let the cream rise to the top the way it always has in the past. And, you get the best contenders, you do it. I mean, you said it evenly and easily. I mean, to get a title fight, you had to be ranked in the top 10 of the world. And the number one ranked contender, you had to defend your title every 6 months against the number one ranked contender in that division. And then in between the title fight against the number one ranked contender, you could choose to fight anybody in the top 10 to defend your title and get some money and get a good payday. However, if you chose to fight a person outside the top 10, you would fight a non-title fight. So, there's so many ways that there were good rules and regulations in the past that were in effect. But as I said, through the years, you lower the benchmark and you change the rules, you change the games, you have a different way of doing things, and it's to appease the masses as far as maybe not the fans as much as far as the lucrative dollars that are in the game of boxing with all the sports hands that may be being fed.
Well, I just want to say this. I do have the formula for a league that would work in professional boxing. But the sad thing, I'm looking at one of the chat rooms and somebody's trying to explain to me why a fighter's on the A side and they have the money, they have the fans, blah, blah, blah. Well, let me tell you something. There would be no defined A side if fighters climb the friggin' ladder of contendership. No. There wouldn't be, because they would be equal. The guy that climbs a ladder that starts out at number 10 and beats everybody in front of him until he's number 1 is a damn good fighter. And if that guy all of a sudden gets a shot at the title, this isn't going to be an unknown coming in from left field like we see today. You get a guy all of a sudden, oh, our champion's fighting so-and-so, and you're like, who's this guy? And you have to look him up. He's 28-0, and you never heard of him. You never heard of any of his fights that he ever had. He fought in some country you never heard of. Come on. If a fighter is climbing a ladder, you know who he is. And it eliminates the BS of an A side versus B side anyway. It's gotten so intricate with the greed factor, Sal, I'm surprised this sport's even still working, to be honest with you.
Well, it's going to work, and it's going to always have, like I said, its spin. But, the good old days, when you were ranked in the top 10, the only way you could move up is if you fought one of those top 10 contenders that were above you. And you would say, hey, I'm number 10. I just earned the top 10 ranking. I want to fight the number 1 ranked contender. Or I want to fight the number 5th ranked contender. And then you would move up. It doesn't mean you'll take his place, but you will move up the ranks. And that's the way it used to be.
Just remember Just remember, boys and girls, the wording I used earlier is the wording that the sanctioning bodies use. They're mandatory is against the next available fighter. Available.
Wow.
Which is BS. A mandatory should be number one. The guy that's number one. Hey, listen, I even in the heavyweight rankings right now, you look at the IBF, you got Cuba Pulov ranked number 2. You know why he's not number 1? Because there's nobody in the number 1 spot. It says not rated, meaning they don't have a guy in the number 1 spot. So how can that be? Don't you move everybody up one? If you don't have a guy in the number 1 spot, doesn't number 2 automatically move into number 1? Please, you know what that means, boys and girls? How much money can you put in my envelope and slide under this door to make me put your fighter in the number 1 spot? Come on. Listen,
that's all it takes.
The bottom line is if a fighter had to climb the ranks of a contendership, he would be a damn good fighter, even in the watered-down sanctioning bodies that we have today. If you pick a sanctioning body you want to align yourself with and you climb up their ladder of contenders, you're going to be a damn good fighter and worthy of the champion. And that's why it should only be number 1, fighting the champion. And then you can justify why fighters duck. But when you bring a guy in from left field, and you know what, you want to see what I'm talking about? You want to know that I'm not BSing you? All you got to do is go after one of these, look at the rankings before one of those conferences that they have. The what do they call them? When they all get together, not a conference, but what do they call that? Like a convention. When you look at the rankings before a sanctioning body's convention, they all have yearly conventions now. Then look at the rankings the week after the convention, and you'll see there'll be movement. And why is there movement? Because there's deals made at those conventions by promoters to put their fighter in that spot. Please. Anyway. On this day in boxing history, March 20th, in 1992, one of the biggest middleweights, in my opinion, Iran the Blade Barkley wins a 12-round decision over Tommy Hearns to win the WBA World Light Heavyweight title, and that took place in Las Vegas. On this day in 1993, Henry Mask wins a 12-round decision over Prince Charles Williams to win the IBF World Light Heavyweight title, and that took place in Germany. On this day in 1992, Thierry Jacob wins a 12-round decision over Daniel Zaragoza to win the WBC World Junior Featherweight title, and that took place in France. On this day in 1925, Phil Rosenberg wins a 15-round decision over Cannonball Martin to win the World Bantamweight title, and that took place at Madison Square Garden in New York City. And finally, on this day, March 20th in 1970, Charchai Chiniori wins a 15-round decision over Efren Torres to regain the WBC World Flyweight title, and that took place in Bangkok on this day in 1970. Whew. God, I need to go. I'll tell you what I'm not going to have is another cup of coffee. But I'll tell you what, you guys... Tomorrow we got a busy day scheduled. Our Blast from the Past that Alex is going to present is on Don King. We also have Boxing Hall of Famer Larry Hazard scheduled to join us. We'll be talking to him about the replay system in effect in New Jersey and how it works and why no one ever gives New Jersey credit for having it. They're always talking about we should do it, we should. Well, guess what? They do in New Jersey. We'll be giving you an update on all the latest boxing news. And if you want to get me riled up, send me an email, Billy@TalkinBoxing. That's TalkinBoxing.com. And I just want to put it out there right now. We will not let Sal start another sanctioning body. I promise Sal will not have his own belt to give out. It's not happening.
I've got ideas.
It's not happening. It's not happening. Hey, listen, boys and girls, make sure you tune in tomorrow morning. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby.